The next conversation is actually going to explore specifically the UAE's roadmap to blockchain adoption. Basically, we're going to be looking at how the country is driving innovation and setting a new global standard in many ways for digital transformation. Our panelists are going to explore a future where the economy is connected, transparent, and efficient. Please welcome our moderator for this session, Hussein Saeed. He's an anchor at CNBC Arabia, and he's got several absolutely preeminent guests to join him on the stage for this conversation. Welcome.
All right.
Good start.
Good morning, everyone. Okay.
Wasn't me.
Which one of us is doing that?
Special welcome to you. So, thank you all for joining us on this very exciting discussion on the UAE roadmap to blockchain adoption. And I think it's not secret to anyone here that the UAE has always been a leader when it comes to adopting cutting-edge technologies. And of course, blockchain is not an exception over here. So the country's ambitious vision to integrate blockchain today, whether it is in the services, industrial, government, public, healthcare, banking, it all shows here. And it is also a testament to its commitment to innovation, to transparency, and to efficiency. So today, I'm very glad to be joined by key figures from the industry over here. I have here to my left Abdullah Al-Dahir, he's CEO of Abu Dhabi Blockchain Center, Dr. Samir Al-Ansari, CEO of RAC Digital Asset Oasis, Frederick, you don't need an introduction, from Cardano Foundation, and Dimitri Fedotov, Director of Abu Dhabi Global Markets. And let us kick in to this conversation, and I'll start with you, Abdullah. And the UAE has positioned itself as a hub for the blockchain innovation. From your perspective and what you've been working on over the past few years, what are the key pillars today that make the UAE blockchain ecosystem stand out?
The UAE has always been a hub many years ago, and I think Dimitri will share more later on. Since 2017 or 18 back then, many regulatory frameworks were being put in, creating sandbox environments for companies to come set up here and doing many things. How I see it right now during this era that we are in, especially this year, is basically adoption and going to the mass scale. We are putting a leap forward of what maybe many other countries are not doing yet. We see more innovation in the space, whether it's from the regulatory environment, banking systems. Right now you saw like AE coin, an actual dirham-backed stable coin started launching from here, and more things are gonna come out in the next few months and years. So we do believe the adoption is gonna be scaling, and users are gonna start to understand more what this technology is, and whether it's from blockchain to crypto or Web3 in general. Even from the gaming spaces right now, we do see many initiatives. I can speak in Abu Dhabi for itself, like you have DCT, Abu Dhabi Investments Office, creating full-on clusters just to serve the purpose of the gaming ecosystem.
Wow, that's fantastic. So Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and now even Ras Al Khaimah is being a heavy player. So Dr. Samir, if you could tell us how RAC today is also playing or shaping the future of digital assets and blockchain in your Emirates, and how does it align with the UAE vision?
Sure, thank you, Hussein. Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be at the Cardano Summit. It's really no rocket science. The basics are a good set of regulations and a safe environment for everybody to operate in. And that's what the UAE is about, a safe environment, a friendly environment, phenomenal infrastructure, a welcoming environment, and we're here to do business. So if one starts with that, I think the rest fall in place quite well and quite easily. And so when we created RAK DAO, and I say DAO for a reason, because I'll talk to you more about that in a minute, RAK Digital Assets Oasis, it was to fill a gap, in our opinion, because the UAE was on a journey. The UAE was very focused on blockchain, Web3, and where we want to be globally, not just within the UAE. And the focus at that time was pretty much on regulated activities. It's VASPs and what VASPs do, and how to issue licenses for regulated activities. And that's what AGDM was doing, Dubai Vara, the IFC to some extent, and so on. And so our vision was to fill that gap where there are 99% of operators, let's say, that don't need a regulated license. We call them unregulated activities, and I hate saying unregulated because they are actually strictly regulated. We don't onboard any company until we've done all the compliance necessary. Actually, our job is a little bit more difficult because, and I'm not belittling what AGDM and Dubai Vara does, and that's why it takes them a year to issue a license, because they have to go through a lot of hurdles to issue a license. But actually, any license we issue to these unregulated activities, first we need to make sure that that application, that business plan, actually is not someone trying to do a regulated activity, but come through the back door, come through an unregulated license issuer. And that's why our job actually is a bit more difficult to do that. Now, going back to what does it mean? What it means is really what I said to begin with, creating an environment where the innovators, the techie guys, the developers can get a license in a phenomenal jurisdiction called the UAE, where they can operate safely, where they can open a bank account, where they can plug into our ecosystem, which I'd love to talk to you about a little bit more later, and through that ecosystem, have the platform to innovate, grow, succeed. That's what we set out to do. And we literally turned 1 year old. Yep, we're only 1 year old, a couple of days ago. We have a big event on Friday to celebrate that and to celebrate the 400 licenses that have already been issued and the 60 ecosystem partners and so on and so forth. So it showed that we filled a good gap, and it frankly, for me, strengthens the UAE offering. So that whether you are a regulated business, a VASP, or a startup that wants a safe environment to operate, get a bank account, hire people. We take it for granted that you can hire people from anywhere in the world, because we can in the UAE. In other parts of the world, that's not possible. So to have that platform to operate and grow and succeed, don't underestimate it. And people are coming now. We were just saying earlier that there were many disbelievers in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, the UAE for many years. Finally, they woke up, only really in the last few years. We've been saying it for 30 years, but they woke up. It's okay, better late than never. But it's happening. This is the place.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. That's amazing, and welcome, Amr. Frederick, so we've heard from Dr. Samir and Abdullah today how the UAE is really being a leader when it comes to adoption, blockchain adoption. Today, Cardano, how do you support the UAE's vision and also their ambition today for the blockchain adoption? I mean, like in particular in terms of scalability and efficiency.
Yeah, so I think the honest answer is we don't. What we do, however, is we isolate companies, people and visionaries who has a vision, who fit into UAE, and we work with them in terms of the enterprise adoption, so the underlying fabric where the application landscapes need to put on. And that is a journey which is long. For the Cardano Foundation, that can take several years to to get to the people who truly understand the differences between the layer ones, the connective tissue you need between a permissioned environment, the layer one, and digital identity to connect physical items to the blockchain. So this is the approach we've been taking. And this is a very unusual approach, because the normal approach for many layer ones and many blockchain companies is, you pay somebody or you do a favor and then you get an opposite back, a trial and error thing. And we don't do that in the Cardano Foundation. The other thing we do is we actually help the UAE to attract talent, to attract brain power, and to attract tax revenue, basically, to be very frank. So with our activities with the summit the last couple of years, with the access we have to the gentlemen here, but also others, we give people an opportunity that they can scale their business in a safe environment by coming here. And sometimes you just need to know who to go to and explain that, so a little bit like an exploration process. And the brand of UAE has definitely been changing, but the fact that we can bring in people from 80 different countries, some of the people in this room never left their country before. They got a passport for the first time to travel to the Cardano Summit, right? And now they are here, and now they meet these gentlemen, and they see the environment, the business environment, and they meet other people who can scale their business. And there is even some great academia people in the room as well, and suddenly they have a base to take off from. So they're going from a very DeFi, I don't need regulation, I don't need anything, to suddenly their model is working, and now they have employees and they have responsibilities, and they need to think about, maybe the world is bigger than my little house here, and there's all these regulatory agencies knocking on my door, and I'm unsure. And today, for 2 days, you can go on the startup street and you can get actual legal advice from a UAE law firm, and you can meet these gentlemen. So we attract that. That's how we do it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Dmitry, we have to go through you to get our companies set up. So, and as Frederick just said, this sometimes could take a long time. So today we need a friendly environment. At the same time, we need the security and compliance. Where are we now?
Yeah, I think where I would like to start is that a little known fact is that ADGM in UAE was the first jurisdiction to enact the virtual asset regulations back in 2018. If some of you remember what happened in 2018, it was the disappearance of this lady from OneCoin, Dr. I don't remember her exact name. In January, the BitConnect collapsed. ICOs were dying left and right. And ADGM decided to come out with this amazing framework, the world's first for virtual assets. And ever since, we have been a constant in this space. So if you think about this, what happened since that time? So the exchanges appeared, let's say, in Beijing, were kicked out, migrated to Hong Kong, then to Singapore, then to Malta, and so on and so forth. During all this time, UAE was a constant welcoming and focusing on this space, and it started bearing fruit really when Vara was established in Dubai, and I'm very proud to mention that I was a part of the original team of Vara in Dubai when it was established before moving over to ADGM. So I would respectfully disagree with the fact that, or with the statement that it takes a long time to set things up. In contrast to other jurisdictions, we are extremely fast. So the framework that I'm extremely proud of, that I'm heading in ADGM, called the DLT Foundations regulations, that is the world's first purpose-built framework for blockchain foundations, for protocols, for DAOs, for Web3 entities. It only takes us 1 month to set you up, in comparison to, let's say, Singapore and Switzerland, where it can take about a year and roughly 150, 200,000 US in legal costs and so on. We are extremely agile and fast. And I think this is because we have the right people in place. So I only fairly recently became a regulator. I have a legal background, but I know the industry very well. I've been in the industry since 2013. So I know exactly what the industry players are looking for. And so the same attitude have a lot of regulators here in the UAE. So things are moving very fast, and UAE is becoming the center for blockchain and crypto because of this.
Then that's fantastic, especially I think with so many other countries. What they struggled with is having their legal and regulatory framework. They cannot speak the language. And this is why it's important to have somebody within the industry itself. Thank you very much. Amr, you at the Dubai Blockchain Center, you speak to the public, you speak to the private sector, you speak to governments, you speak to companies. And we do believe that the public-private partnership is very important for this blockchain adoption even to scale up further. And if you can tell us, who are you speaking to now? What is the response, whether it's from the government side or as well from the public side? And where are we on the map?
So to start back, I mean, the discussions has been going on for a long while. I've joined the Blockchain Center recently, just 2 years ago, where Dr. Marwan has been leading this industry for over a decade. So I'm going to be speaking about my involvement since then. There has been discussion. We have almost an open policy to speak to anyone. We've been approached by so many startups, and it's, to be honest, overwhelming. I've seen all kinds of companies knocking on our door and wanted to speak to us, wanted help to navigate the marketplace, because they have seen, the minute they land in Dubai, it's the same experience with me, and I'm pretty sure with a lot of people here. This Web3, blockchain, technology, digital economy, ecosystem is, the vibe is there, it's attracting, it's fascinating for entrepreneurs, for businesses. So I do see that on a daily basis, which is great, because people are seeing what's happening in Dubai, have seen the advancements, have seen that we're being a leader in this space. And so the discussion starts from there. The entrepreneurs, the businesses, the startups, we're in constant contact with the regulators just to make sure that we pass on the voices to help in think tanks, discussions, open discussions. So honestly, it's all the ecosystem players from, as I said, the individuals. We've been approached by a lot of people who wanted to learn about blockchain. So individuals that have been hearing about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and they wanted to learn, and all the way to the government, all the way to the regulators. A lot of government, I've had a call yesterday with another government that wanted to train their employees on cryptocurrencies, regulations, what's valid, what's not, how do we navigate all these. So that's a broader, simple answer to that. There's more, obviously, for the private partnership.
How easy is it to communicate with the regulators here, with VARA?
Events. I mean, events. I see the VARA staff everywhere. All the events. I've seen them yesterday at the Blockchain Life. In every event, Cosmos this week is full of events. Probably they're going to be there in Binance week, in Abu Dhabi probably. So they're active everywhere. You can see them on.
So you have no problem with communicating with them.
Yeah, I think just for discussion purposes, there's no problems whatsoever.
Okay, awesome. Abdullah, let me ask you, if you can provide us some insights today into how government initiatives in Abu Dhabi are integrating blockchain. If you can give us some real examples of what impact they are having, probably on the public sectors, efficiency, transparency, things that blockchain should provide.
Look, again, blockchain was there since many, many years ago. Who here lives in the UAE? They can raise their hands. Yeah, so a lot of people who live here use an application called UAE Pass. UAE Pass is already integrated using blockchain technology since many years back.
And by the way, few people know this fact.
Exactly. So like these kinds of applications shows the dedication of government entities starting using these initiatives and technology in the region. Then we get to see use cases when it comes to logistics, whether it's from ports, and we are seeing this more and more right now. The central bank is building its actual CBDC, and that's even using blockchain technology right now. Some might disagree as why are they using like a private chain and that, but that's for another discussion. But we do see the adoption, and we are continue to seeing more adoption. Like Amro said, many discussions with government entities right now are, it's like Dr. Samir said, everybody's aware and everybody's more open to understanding this technology. For me, what I always say, whoever talks to me, whether it's from regulators or government entities or even individuals coming here or companies that wants to set up here, I always tell them one advice: there has to be knowledge to get to what you want. It's not like, oh, I want to build this and create the next boom of the industry. You can do that, but at the same time, it has to make sense. And then at the same time, there has to be knowledge, you know. For example, we've been seeing and hearing a lot of RWAs in the stock market and tokenizing stocks, tokenizing bonds and all of that. I might ask here to everyone is, why didn't that happen? It's not because they don't want to do it when it comes to stock markets right now. It's because how is the user experience of onboarding previous traders or family offices or hedge funds to do these things?
That's fantastic. But just one question on this. You mentioned the UAE Pass, central bank, other government services. Can we say in the UAE that the government is leading this initiative? Because in most other countries, it is the private sector leading, not the public one. You want to comment on this?
I want to comment on this, yeah. As many aware, maybe there's first of all, the Dubai blockchain strategy back in 2016. And the aim is to empower the government to be a blockchain-based government. So it's coming from the government. The vision is there from the government. That's followed by the UAE strategy, the Emirates blockchain strategy in 2021. And that is to drive, one of the main purposes or goals was to drive to enable 50% of the government transactions to be backed by blockchain platforms. So it is definitely coming from the government, and obviously the private and sector is seeing that and interacting to that.
Plus the UAE Digital Economy Initiative, which is to double the contribution of the digital economy from almost 10% to 20% by 2030 of the overall economy. Right. So that's a clear, ambitious vision, and that's kind of the wider digital contribution.
Okay. Brother, you want to add anything?
Maybe again, add a little bit to this. So sometimes, I think it's both to begin with. I agree. It's private sector and the government. But in some cases, it's actually very funny because the private sector is sometimes buffed with how fast and how innovative the government in UAE is. So, for example, the AGM courts, we have our own court system, is on blockchain with a metaverse twin that is transmitting the court real time to a metaverse. It was our idea. It was brought to life by one of the layer 1 protocols, layer 2 actually. But this is there. We are working on a solution where we, as a regulator, we onboard entities as a regulator, and then using ZK roll-ups, sharing this information with banks, with companies, so that they don't have to be onboarded by this, because they are also regulated by us. So if the entity is onboarded by the regulator, the bank can already rely on the information that has been on board without sharing this to this particular institution. So I would say that in many cases the government actually is more proactive and the reason for that is this old misperception of the industry that the government will slow you down. In fact, no, we really want this to happen as fast as possible. We want to enable you. Don't be shy, don't be afraid to approach us.
Great. Anything you want to add, Abdullah?
No, it's like the guy said.
They covered it all.
They covered it all, like they said. No one is going to stop innovation here. You know, whether you're building a securities platform or anything, it's an open air discussion. Like Amro said, you can go discuss, show your ideas. And I know that everybody is willing to adopt, invest, and look at it of how we can adopt it in many ways.
Awesome. Dr. Samir, RACDAO has been pioneering the development of regulatory sandboxes for digital assets. And how do these sandboxes foster innovation? While at the same time, I mean, same question as well, like ensuring regulatory compliance.
Yeah. Very good question. So as I said before, we are focused on the unregulated activities, but that doesn't mean we stop there. There is really a fine line between VASP activities, regulated activities, and the unregulated activities. And our announcement, we call it DARE, which is the Decentralized Autonomous Organizations Regulations, is really that. So when we launched RACDAO a year ago, I called it DAO for a reason. It worked very well, Digital Assets Oasis and DAO. And that's because we wanted to launch a legal wrapper, a product that really works for the industry around DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. And it took us a year because it wasn't an easy thing to do. You want to create a product that works, that speaks to Web3, blockchain, and all of the innovators in that space, to the governance and the structures that people in the space want, but also a product that has the right legal wrapper that works within the rules and regulations of the UAE. Easier said than done. I thought when we started this journey a year ago, we would actually launch it at Token 2049 last April. We're launching it now. So it took a year rather than 6 months because we really wanted a product that works. So we listened to what the industry is telling us, and we've created something that I think is a phenomenal solution that I urge you to go and have a look at. Again, it adds to what we are offering as the UAE. But we're in a very unique position. So when His Highness Sheikh Saud, the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah, asked me to set this up and lead this initiative, it wasn't just, oh, let's create another free zone and let's just do as many licenses as possible. Not at all. It was innovation in the space of the future, in the technologies of the future, in this very exciting space that is beginning to affect our lives and will affect the lives of our children. So back to your previous question, he believed that that would be the tool to attract the right partners, which we're doing, to actually drive that innovation in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. And we're seeing it across the UAE. And I don't want to steal the thunder of some of my colleagues in the tourism sector of Ras Al Khaimah, but we have many initiatives around blockchain, Web3 and so on, NFTs, you name it, for tourism, because tourism is going to be 30% of Ras Al Khaimah's economy after 10 years. You know what's happening in Ras Al Khaimah. So there's so many initiatives that are happening, and we're using RACDAO and our partners to create sandboxes in unregulated all the way to ... regulated, which is when we talk to our colleagues, by the way, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, because I really think it is a very strong partnership. And it's a partnership that makes the UAE as a general landscape a much stronger one.
Amazing. Frederick, today if I would ask you, what are the most promising use cases for the Cardano blockchain for government and the public sector applications in the UAE? Abdullah, he just touched on several of them. If you look for like the near future, what are the most promising blockchain innovations?
Yeah, so I'm Scandinavian from origin, so I tend to be a little bit too direct sometimes. And what I think really happened in the UAE is they've been front running a lot of proofs of concepts, is what I call it in my mind. So when we speak about the identity, right? what's actually happening is that it's being stored on a type of blockchain. And we can discuss sort of different types of blockchain, right? But it's actually not really put into use in the way when we think about what blockchain can really do for society. And there can be many reasons for that, but this is also a journey. This is about maturity. And when we think about CBDCs, for instance, digitizing digital money is, for me, not innovation. Central banks all over the world today can settle in T+0, and we can do something very similar to atomic swaps using the rails and the security from our regulators from around the world already today. What we need to start thinking about is how and when you run a nation state, can you put the right incentives to change monetary and fiscal policy? And that means that you need to start touching on the pure definition of what an asset and what money is. And that means that you need to start enabling things like smart contracts. You need to start enabling features and user experience for the clients. So they might not feel the blockchain, but they feel the effect of the blockchain. And instead of going from audits, who is like a spot check, so you can say, actually, I have something on something who looks like a decentralized ledger. You say, no, I'm using it, and this is the value. I can verify the value of that. Whether you lower the cost, you create stickiness with a new client group, or you're able to move into world trade, like we do on the Cardano ecosystem, where we work very closely to the World Trade Organization, who is digitizing the 9 standard contract and how you move goods around the world. What's so special is that Dubai is one of those center points in the new world order where the goods move through. But when the port sits on a Hyperledger solution, for instance, that's not a solution who scales really well across multiple countries and states, because it's not a standard where it's actually a standard who has an asymmetric governance relationship. And I think this is the use cases we are exploring with some of the people in the room here on how you can keep the culture and the heritage of UAE here and the business secrets, if any, you want to keep here, but can work with countries who might be 10 times bigger, or countries who has a complete different trust standard than what you have here. And that discussion suddenly is no longer about digital assets. It's about critical infrastructure. And now we move into the world of SOC 1 and SOC 2. We move into the world where public permissionless blockchain shines. And you move into where the room here are the experts. But this is a very, very different discussion, and this is not a discussion you can have in an open space. This is a discussion you need to have eye to eye, because now we are touching upon the control mechanisms of how the critical infrastructure is run and operated. We are touching the attack vectors in a world post-quantum computing, and we are talking about how you control citizens, systems, and processes of a country while enabling trade around the world, around multiple sectors.
So hopefully after this conference you will be having closed meetings to discuss these issues. Dmitry, I want to touch on a point Abdullah he just brought up. Tokenization of assets, tokenizations of stock in the market, of real estate, of all this stuff. Yes, we haven't seen a lot developing. If I would ask you, today being a leader in Abu Dhabi when it comes to regulating the industry, how do we see a change today in the financial sector, especially in Abu Dhabi when it comes to blockchain adoption?
Blockchain adoption or RWAs?
Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, there is, again, I think there is a broad misperception. The most tokenized asset in the world is US dollar. So USDT are all tokenized versions of actual fiat currency. So the volume is already there. What we are now seeing is tokenization of new asset classes, such as energy, such as supply chain elements. The reality is that you can tokenize pretty much anything. You can tokenize this tie, and create a derivative from it, or some form of contract that represents the rights to it. So it's not really about what to tokenize. It's more about how to handle this. So let's imagine that we have tokenized this TAI, and we did this on Cardano. And now somebody wants to transfer this rights to another blockchain, right? So you're using a bridge. What does it actually mean? Let's switch from a TAI to a real estate. So somebody has bought $10,000 worth of fraction of some property somewhere and wants to use this as a collateral on some DeFi platform and borrow against it, and then go to another blockchain and use this liquidity. So the fact is that we are not there yet. Probably we are there yet on technology level, but not on regulatory level. And the reason for this is because we don't have one standard. So the tokenization in one jurisdiction is defined mostly quite differently to how the tokenization is defined in another jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So if you, for example, want to go into a space of gold, so tokenizing gold for most of us means, okay, so there is a physical gold lying somewhere, there is a custodian, it's very safe. If I buy this token or some sort of digital certificate, I'm entitled to this asset. But it's not necessarily true and different jurisdictions have a different definition of what this may represent. It may also represent a derivative of gold on an open exchange. So I think RWA, so real-world asset tokenization, will be the next boost over the next 2 years. So I would argue that the 300 trillion US dollars worth of assets that are ripe for tokenization, we will probably see 1% of it, meaning 3 trillion US dollars, flowing into this digital space in the next 24 months.
Awesome. So I actually have a slightly different view on that. So I agree with the market opportunity, right? But on Cardano, for instance, we have amazing projects with tokenized gold around NMaker and a couple of others, and they basically are MiCA compliant, which is, again, Cardano is actually the first MiCA compliant layer 1. Now, to be MiCA compliant, you actually need a MiCA compliant layer 1, plus you actually need the application. And this is where you are really good in the standards you're setting. So thank you for that work. But I actually think we've been tokenizing financial assets and real-world assets, since capital markets and financial systems, and that's where I'm sort of arguing right now that if you have a private blockchain, you tokenize something on it, well, then you're exactly in the silo you were when your core banking system or with your centralized security deposit and so forth, and that's why I'm really trying to say, these standards, whether that's a global standard, which is very hard to achieve currently with the global collaboration, unfortunately, even though the UAE is doing everything they can and more compared to the market size. I think that's where technology has some ability to allow you to define a super standard where the blockchain enforces the regulation. And I think this is where it gets really interesting. So when you have principle-based regulation, and then you have enforcement through the blockchain without actually locking in addresses or in other ways, forcing the blockchain to change, like for instance, Circle and USDC is doing in order to be compliant in certain regulation. That's where I see the future. And then you have the interoperability, and then you no longer only have the opportunity you spoke about. We now also have the opportunity of changing the whole audit market, financial and regulatory audit. And we will get much more transparency, and we will be able to also turn all shareholders and stakeholders into actively having an influence and insight into the businesses, because the cost of transparency goes down. And with the cost of transparency going down, you will have new leaders who's dealing with a different optimum in the incentive structure. It's no longer just what I can get on the share market, right? It's now going to be the local footprint, and you can verify that. And now basically we actually are back into the vision of a digital transformation of UAE. But you really need to understand that underlying structure, and we need to together fight towards more public permissionless blockchains in that space.
I think this conversation needs to keep going on.
Yeah.
And we are short on time, so I have 30 seconds for each of you, just to give me one statement on, we're talking about the roadmap. If we would have the same panel discussion next year, where we will be? I mean, what major change would you like to see?
Major change I would like to see, or I think is going to happen. Again, I've seen the reaction of people coming to the UAE from startups and businesses and entrepreneurs. I am very bullish, to say the least. There has been a lot of work done in the UAE to make it one of the leading blockchain hubs, Web3 hubs, now AI hubs, or any digital economy is fostering the innovation here. So that alone, I think it will set the grounds for more innovation, more companies to come. I'm talking to companies who are moving their headquarters to Dubai, staff to Dubai, capital to Dubai, almost on a daily basis. So that's the least I can say is I am very bullish, very optimistic, looking forward to seeing everybody here and more next year.
Awesome. Abdullah.
For me, I could speak for Abu Dhabi itself and where I am, and you guys are going to see a big change soon. I'm not going to say in the next year, but soon enough you guys are going to see a big change from the regulatory environment, from big major companies moving into Abu Dhabi. And hopefully you guys are going to be happy with the big changes that are going to happen of the new era of ecosystems we all want to create together. And again, we are all here, whether it's Amro or Abdullah or Dr. Samir or Dimitri. We are always open here to prosper innovation, and we are always here to push this forward wherever we are.
That's why Frederick is here as well.
Yeah.
So 2 quick comments. One, I love competition, and I think competition is great. But I think it's very important for us as regulators, licensing authorities in this space, to talk more and have an open dialogue, because the worst thing that can happen is regulatory arbitrage within the UAE that harms the UAE as a jurisdiction and us as regulators and licensing authorities, number one. Number two is the challenge around compliance. We have 1 billion compliance guys that come from banks and financial institutions. I'm sorry to say 0.0001% of them understand this space, and they really need to understand this space to help all of us succeed. And that's where education and upskilling is really important. There is a big gap in that space, and anybody out there that has training institutions, focus on this. There is a major gap, and companies are paying a lot of money to upskill.
Thank you, Dr. Sami. Frederick.
So my hope is, if we sit here next year with this fantastic panel and this fantastic support, is that we will have about 50 native assets from the Cardano ecosystem being listed on exchanges in the UAE, even though the liquidity might not be as high due to the business value and the target operating model and the certainty, including maybe even potentially incorporating here, that we see 50 listings enabled by these regulators. That's my first hope. My second hope is that we can continue the closed-door discussions, which I alluded to, on the right level, to ensure that we pull through some use cases who allows the UAE to be a shining light for digital transformation worldwide, and will put them in a place where they can be a part of a new world order built on transparency, cryptography, and trust. And I think you only do that by truly understanding the power of not controlling, but enabling this through public permissionless blockchains.
Hopefully we're on the right path.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. So my resolution for the next 12 months is I would like to have a unified definition of several things, including what the tokenomics means, what does it mean to have a utility token, things like white paper, so that that becomes a global standard. Something that really needs to be done, and then we can move on to the more important things once we cover this basis. So inshallah, in 12 months we'll meet again, and I'll be able to say, yes, we did this.
Gentlemen, truly a great, insightful conversation. I really appreciate it, and I hope the audience enjoyed it. Thank you very much.